Man, as much as I like them, their feet freak me out. Like, I don't want to touch their feet.
They're just little dinosaur feet.
Yeah, I don't want big or little dinosaur feet touching me.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Pointless Discourse with myself, Hoppocalypse, and Itisdpayne.
Hold up, there we go. Okay, everything was just like boop 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 go. Salam alaikum. Oh, hold on. Salam alaikum, which is hello in Wolof, Wolof. It is a West African group in northwestern Senegal. Yep. That's all I got.
Okay. Yes, saying hello in every language. Well,
we got 3 weeks left until I'm done.
We've gone through so many languages. It's also crazy to think of how many episodes we've gone through now.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially how many iterations we've gone through of the podcast.
Yes.
We are now...
let's see. This is probably the 4th version. 3rd? It's either 3rd or 4th, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's what happens when you talk for a long time. You grow and you decide you just want to make a scheduled time to be able to watch media you've always wanted to watch. Exactly. Or maybe not necessarily always wanted to, but been curious about.
Or just rewatch the same thing.
I will gladly rewatch this movie over and over again.
Yes, watching this movie, I was like, I think I need to change my scores for all the other movies.
Is this my favorite horror movie? I don't remember if I said that last year.
Yes, you did.
I did. Yeah, it still is.
Before we start, though,
Hereditary was good, though.
Predator? Oh, yeah, the first one?
No, Hereditary.
Oh, Hereditary. I heard the Predator, and I'm like, okay. I didn't think you liked it that much, but okay.
I mean, it's still a good movie. I think after watching through all of the Predator series and, like, dipping our toes into the... I guess now we're almost at the halfway point of the Alien series, right? There's 3 more movies. Aliens,
Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection.
The pacing for Predator and Alien are not that different. In the way that it's kind of a slow build, and then
the first one,
the first Predator, where the pacing is very much like, what's going on, guys? I don't know. If I don't know, you don't know. Oh no, everything's wrong. Everything's bad. Help. I'm
just glad I stood awake for the whole time. I was like, oh man, there was the parts I remembered, but I'm just like, wow, it's like, oh man. Well, we'll get into it, but
yes. And if anyone hasn't figured it out, we watched Alien again this year.
Yes, the whole reason we did this Predator Alien shenanigan.
Yeah,
because it won.
It won last year.
Spoilers for a year ago.
For us a year ago. Also spoilers for if you managed not to watch a movie from 1979.
Yes. You weirdos. What's wrong with you? But there's one thing I wanted to say before we really started.
Okay.
Happy first week of October. Because that's when this comes out.
It's fall.
Yeah. Well, actually, yes. This past Thursday, fall started. And
then the weather was like, you know what? We're going to make it 70 degrees out. I was like, yes, it's fall.
Yeah. I always find it interesting, at least here in, the...
Northeast.
The Philadelphia area. It's like, I don't know. Philadelphia's far enough, but close enough all together. But Northeast, at least, I don't know farther north, but it always feels like around September 18th, it's like, it seems like every year, like, the weather's like, but wait, one more heat? And it's like, no, why? And then it's just like, I'm
sure, like, in a week, we'll get a random heat spike and everyone will be upset. Because I feel like that's how it always turns out. Or when it gets to winter, it'll do that too. Mm-hmm. I know it hasn't snowed in a very long time, and I kind of want snow, even though I hate snow.
We're supposed, apparently we're getting, from predictions of random things I've been hearing from other people, which are, like the almanac, the Farmer's Almanac. they're like, yeah, this January, it's like we're getting hit hard.
I will mentally prepare. I'll actually buy salt this year because last year I was like, it just keeps raining.
Yeah, well, like that's the thing. I remember my mom telling me, I think years ago. Well, that's yes, it would have been years ago either way, but more than years ago. But it was like I think when I was in, it was either after I graduated college or in high school. I don't remember when. It was somewhere around that time. She mentioned that when it's foggy in August mornings, that means that in like December and January, we're going to have like snowstorms. She like read that somewhere.
Was it foggy in August? I don't remember paying attention.
Here it was.
I also didn't really leave the house because I work from home.
Yeah, I was about to say. I have to leave the house, and so I'm just like, this is. I think I tweeted this morning, or not this morning. I tweeted the other day and was just like, because I'm giving it the old. Well, I don't know if it's a college try because they don't really most college students I know don't wake up early. But I'm like, okay, let's fix the sleep schedule and get up earlier.
Yeah, I noticed I used to be able to message you randomly at like 11 p.m. or later, and then I was like, wow, he's actually offline.
Yeah, well, it also depends when, because sometimes I'll still answer because it's my phone. Like I still won't be able to fall asleep, but it's just like I was trying to like let's get to bed by 11 and then attempt to sleep. So it also helps that I set my alarm to first go off at 5 o'clock in the morning to wake up closer to 6:30.
Painful.
Yep, that's my name.
It's you.
Yep. But yeah, we got movies to talk about.
We do got movies to talk about. And I did look up, so in the same vein as when I watched the first Predator, it was very much like, okay, this movie's good. It has some interesting parts. Let me look up fun facts. So I think last year, if you're curious about a really, really deep dive and me trying to like really get into the meanings of different things in the movie, you can listen to last year's episode. Is that one just titled Alien?
I think so.
But here I have okay. Here I have fun facts because like I was just watching the movie and I was just like, yes.
That's how I was like too. I was like, oh man, this is nice.
It's a good movie.
And it's like while watching. Wait a second.
You just checking the title of the last year's Halloween episode?
No, I thought we did Over the Garden Wall last year. It turns out it was in March.
Yeah, because we did the Halloween movie rankings. That's when we learned that we can't do multiple episodes a week.
Yes. Okay. Now, so if you guys want the Alien episode, it is, because let's see, it's in the horror movie showdown, and I don't want to replace. I want to.
Yeah, I don't like that Anchor put this button bulk replace episodes.
Yeah, that's what I clicked to go back.
Horror movie showdown.
It is Texas Chainsaw Massacre versus Alien. Wow, Hereditary and The Babadook got some listens. Anyway, we're not here to talk about analytics. We
Psycho
did that
versus
earlier.
Shining. I know you said everyone was probably upset because I was like, I don't want to put The Shining through because it's not the perfect movie that all the film buffs want to say it is. But that you can listen to that and disagree with me. And if you disagree, let me know at twitter.com/pointlessdisco.
Mm-hmm.
Always be plugging. I'm sorry. That always makes me laugh when that creator, Jarvis Johnson, says it. So I like to say it too.
ABP. But yeah, it is. But no, to be fair, like I will say, I thought I remembered more of The Shining and Shaun of the Dead than I thought I did.
Oh, yeah, because you did not do rewatches because you were like, I already have to watch all these other movies.
And then it was like, after that, I was like, I need to rewatch these all because I haven't watched movies in about 5 to 10 years.
And now we're watching movies once a week. Look at us.
Yep. Where I have friends saying, you only watch this movie because Hop tells you, and was like, no, it's a team.
Yeah, we both agree on things. Sometimes I share cursed ideas, sometimes you share cursed ideas, and sometimes the cursed ideas turn into a normal idea.
Yeah, like Kermit Alien. The Kermit morph. The Kermit morph.
And then before you sent me Jonesy, right? Like the true hero of Alien. a while ago.
Oh, the cat?
Yeah.
No, yeah, yeah, it's like an art poster.
But yes, we have Alien, the movie.
But I was just gonna say real quick, as Hop was saying, I think we already said it, but my brain's dumb. If you want deep dive, kind of how we've been doing with the other stuff, like all the other movies, definitely go to the Horror Movie Showdown, Texas Chainsaw versus Alien. If you want to see the reason why we've done these things and now why, definitely go there.
I mean, yeah, that we have that whole series essentially of us. We had, we started with so many. Was it 16 movies in the bracket?
4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yeah, because we each brought 8.
Mm-hmm. And then we both randomized a tier and then had it all try and battle it out to the end.
It was a fun thing. But,
it was very fun. I mean, as for spoilers, what were the top 3? It was Alien, Train to Busan, and...
Is it still pinned? There's so much Disney. Yeah, it's right there. Let's see. It was Psycho and Train to Busan. They were versus each other, and then The Thing and Alien. That was a good one.
That was a good set of movies to go after.
That was a good one.
Other.
Yeah, and then Alien versus Train to Busan, and Alien won. Oh man, The Thing and Alien. If they were in 2 different brackets, that would have been a very good final showdown.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's also. If you want to know where the origin of all the Cell jokes come from,
Twizzler J-Lo.
Yeah.
That was a fun break almost with because we were seriously talking about a ton of movies, and then when we watched The Cell and we both go, so did you like this movie?
I liked parts of it. I will still say I liked parts of that dumb movie.
It had a lot of potential, and I think too many hands in the pot.
Yeah.
It tried to be too many things.
I still think The Cell would make an interesting if Hulu or Netflix wanted to pick it up and give it a mini series.
Yeah,
I think that a little mini arc. Because I don't know. Imagine an hour each, in different patients' heads.
Yeah, and
might be interesting.
And maybe get someone who's actually a professional in mental health.
What do you mean? You don't. But save all.
I'm sorry. The religious trauma saving the kid's life is not it.
Hey, if it works, it works.
For context, if you don't. It's a very funny episode of our podcast to listen to because I was just off the wall. I was like, the symbolism in this movie is crazy. Mm-hmm. But for TLDR, they make a whole big stink about the kid having religious trauma due to his baptism and to his upbringing and being forced into a gender role. Completely fair things to have some issues with in your bringing into your adulthood. But then to cure the patient. J-Lo is I'm going to take on the Mother Mary Magdalene and hold him underneath more religious symbols. And I was just I don't think that's how you heal religious trauma, but I guess I'm not an expert, J-Lo.
Hey, it worked. And then she became a ninja nun or something like that.
Oh, yeah, because the demons. Anyway, the inner demons came out. But yes, to a movie that is a 10 out of 10. Let's talk about Alien.
Oh, wait, we're not talking about The Cell?
No, you rewatched The Cell and for no reason.
Oh, no. We would have had way different conversations if I rewatched The Cell. But let's roll dice before we get distracted again.
We're easily distracted people.
Yes, and we are in more of a time crunch today than normal.
And it's not my fault for once.
Yeah, it's my brother's. But yeah. I don't know. I always think it's good just to remind people why we roll the dice. Oh, well, you might be going first again. We're big nerds, and we like tabletop role-playing games such as Call of Cthulhu, D&D. And my brain died. But anyway, we're pretty much rolling. Whoever gets the higher number gets to go first. And for the way we've been doing this is going to be kind of leading the conversation, walking us through the movie. And since what did you roll?
I rolled a 14.
Oh, yeah, you beat me by 11 because I got 3.
Yeah, last year, what was it? I rolled a 4 and you rolled a 3, so this is fun.
Yep. So Hop is going to explain this, which it says she has fun facts this time.
I do have fun facts to bring in. Let me preface all these. I don't know how true any of these are, but they do make me laugh and make me think, wow, Ridley Scott is a suspicious person in the way he decides to direct his movies, but we'll get to it.
Oh, wait a second. Hold up. I'm going to message the one.
Did you look up fun facts?
I didn't look up one, but one came to me.
It manifested itself in your life. Just like, xenomorphs started to appear in my life when I went out last weekend. I did not tell that story because we got distracted. Let me sneak it in. I went to a Glass Arts Festival last week. Yeah, I went to a Glass Arts Festival last week, and that's why we were on a little bit of a time crunch last week as well. And I go, and they have glass xenomorphs at this place, and like 6 different glass xenomorphs that I saw, and I was like, xenomorphs everywhere. And then on the drive back, I ended up behind a car, and it had a xenomorph bumper sticker on it. I was just like, they're everywhere. They know that I'm watching the Alien franchise right now. They know I've moved on from Predator onto Alien. I'll see. Maybe I can send. Oh yeah, I did send you the picture. Let me see if I.
You sent me multiple pictures.
Yeah, I guess when we say that this episode is going live, you can share that on Twitter as a nice little like, oh look at this. Yeah. We're talking about these boys.
I was also thinking this week, I was like, I haven't really I keep forgetting to promote the YouTube channel, and it's like now we have all these cool thumbnails made by the Hoppocalypse. Yeah. Yeah, that's how you know it's official. She has a "the" in front of her name.
Did you send me the fact?
Oh, okay, yeah, I got distracted. Mainly because I forget. I can say her name, but I forget how to. I forget how to spell her real name.
Okay.
Let's see.
Oh, I did not have that written down, but I have also heard of that fact.
Yeah, I was like that. I wasn't sure if that one. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's true, but it is funny.
All right,
because that costs like almost $1 million.
Expensive, but yes. So when it comes to the way that the plot is structured and all that, I know in all the previous movies I took really like detailed notes so that I would remember everything. But I realize this is the 3rd year in a row that I've watched Alien now, maybe the 4th. So my notes are not going to be very detailed. So if there's little details I'm missing, Itisdpayne, feel free to let me know. Because I was just like along for the ride, kind of like on a roller coaster, versus like sitting there with a microscope going, what did they mean by this, David? David, what is this?
Yes. I pretty much wrote like just reactions to everything rather than like
really detailed.
Like, for example, the first thing I wrote is, I can't believe I'm watching this again within a year.
Yes. Okay. So let's jump in. So we have our introduction. One of the fun facts I saw is someone wrote down that there is no dialogue in the movie for the first 6 minutes, and I was like, as it should be. I don't like too much talking, but that's just me as a person.
Oh yeah. Also, before you get super far, if you haven't watched Alien and this is your first time showing up, prepare for big dumpy wumpy spoilers. I didn't like what I said, but it came out of my mouth. So yes, there will be spoilers. So if you don't like them, well, sucks to be you. We're gonna
Ripperoni. Okay, so we have the opening text that explains that we're on a towing vessel known as the Nostromo. I'm only putting that out because Ridley Scott used the similar opening text for Prometheus and Covenant. All the namesakes of the ships. Oddly, I wonder if he wanted this to be named Nostromo.
I wrote that too. I wrote that down somewhere. But you know what I also noticed in the beginning?
What's that?
There's no year.
Correct.
Like, no year when this takes place. Thus, it can take place at any time.
In the universe, yes.
Yeah.
And the vessel's on its way back to Earth, towing a mining load. And then we have an opening shot panning to show off how cool the ship is, you know, with all the layouts. And I was watching it, and compared to Prometheus and Covenant, I was like, I like grungy sci-fi. I don't like expensive sci-fi. I don't want white walls. I want walls that look like they've been touched before.
Yeah, like looking at the ship, I'm sitting there and I was like, I don't know why, if it's just because the ship is a model and it's just like, it's literally just in front of a black screen with like stars. And I'm like, the ship looks so much more impressive than Prometheus, and I don't know why I was about to call Covenant Hereditary, but anyway, oh man, that'd be a fun movie. Anyway, interesting. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. I think it's just the fact where, as you said, everything's too clean and new, and it's like 3D projections and holograms, and I'm like, this is just like, everything is like, this was gonna, if there wasn't a xenomorph on this ship, it was gonna break anyway.
Yeah, like it's barely holding together, which is a plot of the movie as it comes forward. And then we also have a pretty calm wake-up sequence, again, in comparison to the early movies. And I think it's also interesting because the tone of this movie, like, I like the pacing of this movie so much more on a rewatch, especially after... I wasn't expecting Prometheus and Covenant to be adrenaline movies, but they feel like adrenaline movies where they want to like start you full of adrenaline and keep you on the edge of your seat, which is fine. It's that's how he wanted to handle it. But in Alien, they want you to kind of settle in and feel like you're just a natural observer.
Well, with the Alien, it feels, well, not feels, it's like it has to establish so much because it
was the first in the universe.
It was the first one. There's no, to my knowledge, I don't know if xenomorphs were like, well, there is the thing, Geiger, I forget his first part of his name. He did art for the Dune movie that was supposed to come out.
That never came to be.
Never came to be. But his art for the Harkonnens, I think it was, they Ridley Scott saw, that's his name. Whatever the director's name, I'm like, whatever his name is, he saw it and was just like, dude, make xenomorphs, and he's like, okay. So,
yeah. And then one thing I did write as an interesting note compared again to the other movies, because we can't. This is a series. It's all in the universe. That I wrote, a totally human member of the crew was in a sleeping pod. Totally human. Nothing suspicious. I found myself on this rewatch watching him intently because the other two movies focused so heavily on the Wayland robots, and I was like, what's Ash up to? What's he doing?
Yeah.
When's the tell?
I'm just sitting there, I was like, all right, when's David coming out? And I really do wonder if there was supposed to be a third Alien movie that, like, because, like, watching Prometheus and Covenant, it's like, originally it feels like, okay, Wayland's just like, give us the alien. But it's like, with the context of David made xenomorphs, and it's just like, yo, get us the thing. I don't care about anybody. It's just like, did David go back to Earth and now is running Wayland? Like,
yes, and what you're referencing takes a while for it to come up in this movie.
Yeah. We're all over the place.
Then, as everyone has their slow wake up, we have the glimpses of the different personalities and roles on the crew. And the fun fact I wrote for this is supposedly Ridley Scott, the director, gave each actor and actress full background on their characters they were playing. Which makes sense, because the way that they interact with each other, it really does feel like a crew that's been working together, and they're just stuck on a ship together. I have written... We have Lambert, who is the not female lead, is kind of like a navigator, because they kind of are like, where are we? And she's like, I don't know, I can't find Earth. And poor Ripley's in the back, we're not in the system. Yes. This is a different solar system. And Lambert's like, where is Earth? And Ripley's like, guys, when will you listen to me?
Yeah. Oh, I wrote something about this. Where'd it go? I said Alien should be renamed No One Listens to Ripley. Yeah,
I just wrote for my little notes about personalities and roles. I said Lambert is the navigator. Ripley is the person that gets doubted / gaslit. Dallas is the captain who gets to speak directly with Mother. Brett and Parker are like the really blue collar type of crew that work in the underbelly of the ship and feel underappreciated. I don't know what Kane's ship role is. Is he second in command?
No, Ripley is. Ripley's second.
No, Ripley makes a comment where she says, when Dallas and Kane are off the ship, I'm in charge.
Yeah, maybe. He's bait. That's what he is.
Poor buddy. And then Ash is the encyclopedia. Because, again, the scene that we paid a lot of attention to last year was him saying, well, actually, in protocol, blah, 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 if there is a distress signal, you get no money if you don't help it. And poor Parker is like, I just want money.
Yeah.
So yes, and during that group meeting, when you get to see their personalities, it also is found out about the contract, how the money is being split, and that Dallas says that Mother has found a transmission, and they're not 100% sure what that beacon is, but maybe it's a distress beacon, so they're not allowed to ignore it.
I already wrote, I'm like, I guess this is where David landed. Like, I just assume that everything now is related to David. David is now the main character of the Alien series.
He's the true villain.
Or alien protagonist.
Anyway.
I will say, watching this one after watching Prometheus and Covenant, I feel like maybe it was a little bit more, but it felt like a little bit more forced of, this is my wife. But this one, it felt like everybody, like as you were saying, they had their whole backgrounds written, like it was a tabletop role-playing time. Come together, bring your character sheet. But it felt genuine that these guys and like they spent time, like, and not just like
it felt very grounded in their interactions. They all felt like people having real conversations, which I didn't realize was missing until we watched like a lot of the Predator series and then the Alien prequels. And I was like, wait, these people are just talking to each other. There's no exposition dumps. There's no like big grand monologues. It's just conversations.
Yeah, like when they land on the planet, I think I'm jumping a little bit ahead.
Just a little bit ahead.
Yeah. But like I think it's a good example of it when it's just like Ripley's like, okay, I'm gonna go and like just check on the ship or something like that to make sure it's fine. And I'm forgetting their names. I should just bring up a wiki. The guys who are working on the ship,
Brett and Parker.
Yeah, they're like, why is she coming down here? Like, and it's just like, it doesn't even give explanation. It's just like through their interaction, it's like one of those things. It's like, is Ripley just that crew member that just is the floater and goes around and like no one really wants her there? But it's just like, I'm gonna go to the wiki and find out what Ripley's role is, except for being cool.
Yeah, but so what I was gonna say is, in order to go and handle the distress beacon, they do decide to go and land on the planet. And during the landing on the planet, you have the usual escapades of like the storm. There's trouble landing. And then when they find themselves having physically landed on the planet, the ship itself does have some damage to it because they weren't sure about elevation and landing point because there's only so much they can know. And then that brings into, like you said, so Brett and Parker are in the underbelly of the ship, and they're like, oh, it might take like, I think they're so funny because Brett is like, it'll take 17 hours, and Parker's like, it'll be 25 hours. Like very very much how I feel like most repairmen are, honestly. And then, like you said, Ripley goes down there and goes to talk to them, and Parker and Brett give her a hard time. Like, they don't want to share any information with her. They're like, what is she going to do? She doesn't work down here. She doesn't know what goes on down here. And one fact that I found, it said to, where did I write this fun fact? Oh, to create more natural tension between the characters, Ridley Scott asked the actor for Parker to antagonize Sigourney Weaver in between acting on set, so that when they shot the scene in the underbelly, apparently he would say things like, come on, you can do better than that, deliver the line better, be better than this. And then eventually she ad-libbed the line down there where she's like, fine, I don't want to be down here anyway. And and in interviews later on, he said he regretted that because he actually really liked Sigourney Weaver, but because Ridley Scott told her to like poke and prod at her to create the tension, like he was like, I didn't want to be mean to her, but I was told to.
Okay. So she did like, hey, do this to get a real reaction out of me. That's better than the birds. Hey, let me tie birds at you. Birds,
but don't worry, Ridley Scott has some other things up his sleeve I'd be concerned about. So
yeah. Let me tie the xenomorph and just throw it at you. Sorry, that's a man. I don't care.
That's a 7-foot man in a suit. Did you find her role on the show?
It said that she was a warrant officer.
Okay.
But I'm trying to make sure that's just not later.
Oh, like in the wiki where it says her overall.
Yeah. It's let's see. This is like an. I'm gonna
look up what is a warrant officer while you look that up.
Apparently a cool dude. This is a lot more information than I was hoping for.
A warrant officer is a highly specialized expert and trainer who, by gaining progressive levels of expertise and leadership, operates, maintains, administers, and manages equipment, activities, or technical systems. So it does kind of sound like floater is maybe not the right word, but it does sound like a generalist. Like maybe she's not high up enough to be the captain, which is Dallas, but she is smart enough to be allowed to direct people and want to have her hands in different things. So I think that makes sense for this movie.
Yeah, so like third, like she'd be the third in command. First being the xenomorph.
Yes. So then we have the search party does end up embarking. Kane says he really wants to go down there. Dallas is the captain. He's like, I'm going to go. And Kane volunteers Lambert. And she's just like, okay, I guess I'll go. A little tidbit. Apparently, the actress that read for the roles, supposedly she thought she got the role of Ripley coming in. And then when she got to set, they were like, you're playing Lambert.
That's a bummer.
Because some of the other crew and casting liked her. But Scott said she's not like lead female material, and he kept looking. And then Sigourney Weaver got recommended, and then they brought Sigourney Weaver to a panel of women, and they were all like, "Oh man, she's like Jane Fonda," and Scott was like, "I found my leading lady."
I will say we did forget one very important character, Jones the cat.
Jones is hardly in it though. Jones is just sitting at the breakfast table at this point, right?
But he's there.
He is there. He gets more important over time.
Oh, yeah. But I was just saying, like, I don't know. We mentioned people that are just kind of showing up. They all just kind of show up. None of them have puked. I said, really an alien movie?
Yes. So then we have, they go out. There's plenty of storm shenanigans. Communications get really bad. And wow, they find themselves a very strange ship that looks very familiar after watching the prequels.
Yep. It's a potato.
Yeah, they happen, and then I wrote, they happen upon a fossilized corpse that it seems like a lot of media call him the space jockey, because it looks like he's piloting the ship. But for me, the size difference between him versus what we've seen in the prequels does not check out. Like, that's the same ship from the prequels, right? It's
the same model, at least.
Yeah, but this jockey thing, like, his rib cage is the size of their forearm, and I was like, is this the same creature that we've seen in the previous movies piloting the ship?
I don't know. It's like, man, it's like I do enjoy the previous movies for what they were, but it's like then watching all this stuff that was beforehand, it's just like, it's confusing. It
is a little confusing, the timeline of things. Also, so here's my other fun fact. So they're walking around in these spacesuits, right? Apparently the suits were, with a budget and everything, they were not really made to be breathable. Like, they were made more as props. And the actors were overheating so often they had to have a constant nurse on set to make sure no one was getting, like, heat exhaustion and all that.
Just like Predator.
And then Ridley Scott, I believe, was like, yeah, no, keep pushing through. You guys are actors. I'm sure you can handle it. But then to make the scale of the sets look bigger, he had his children put on the spacesuits to make it look like everything was bigger. And it wasn't until his own children started passing out that he was like, you know what? Let's fix the suits.
Hey, you got there eventually.
Yeah, but it is interesting that, like I said, the scale of some of the things on set look massive. But then you find out that he uses his kids to help create that scale. And it's like, oh, it's like Lord of the Rings. You use camera tricks.
Yeah, I thought the one thing that was pretty funny about the suits was, what did I call them?
They have the little farts.
Yeah, well, I think I was like, oh, their heads are oil diffusers.
And I did see something that said sometimes those would malfunction and they would disperse the stuff inside. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
I was like, oh, these poor actors. I need so much therapy after this. And then I wrote, while they're out, like, looking around, investigating things on the ship that they find, Ripley is back in the Nostromo and kind of is getting gaslit by Ash because Ripley's like, did anyone really read this distress beacon? And Ash is like, I don't know, I just trust Alice. And she's like, all right, let me actually look at it. And she's like, guys, this is a warning signal, let me go talk to the search party. And Ash is like, no. She's like, why not? And he's like, by the time you get there, they're gonna figure it out anyway, right? So like, let them do their thing. And she's like, okay. Weird.
Eject from the ship.
And then that's when they cut back to them on the alien ship that they found. And poor Kane he's in a very cool room with cool blue lights. Apparently the blue lights were borrowed from the who were rehearsing for a tour next door. And they were like, those are really cool laser lights. Can we borrow the blue ones to shoot something real quick? Yeah, so then he has a thing with the mist. And then he has the egg. And apparently the eggs are made with actual animal organs.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, gross, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but he discovers the room. He talks about how it's really hot down there, I think is one of the things he mentions as he's going into the room.
Yeah, well, he mentions that it's hot, but then he also, which is something, like, from watching Prometheus, it stuck out more, where he's like, there's, like, some barrier that's, like, like he mentioned, the mist, it's like it's locking it all in here, and then as soon as he breaks it, that's when everything starts melting. I was like, oh, okay, just similar to Prometheus, and so it's like, okay, yeah, I didn't put that together until now.
Yeah, and then
how that they kept that in the earlier versions.
And then it's also an interesting point to show, like, the reason he even finds the hatch is because there's like a hole cut out in the floor, and then like rewatching the movie, I was like, oh, it's the acid from the one that bursted out of the big boy. You know, it all ties together in very well without telling the viewer much, and it's kind of neat on a rewatch to go like, what's that? Is that going on down there?
Don't worry though, if there's a third Alien movie, we will know exactly what happens.
Oh boy.
It was actually the last and final transformation, the Davamorph.
The Davamorph.
As he
they
burst
from
out.
Robots.
Yeah. Well, no, he grinds himself into a putty and then shoves himself into the biggest thing he can find.
That'd be
now,
a giant David walking around with two mouths.
No,
a David with a little David.
I was just saying it's a regular xenomorph, and then it's just like the second mouth is David's head, and he just smooches everybody.
Horrifying, without asking, of course.
Yeah, just like, well, there you go, you're infected.
Let's see, and then
David would make himself into Mother, the Mother alien.
So I haven't watched anything else in the universe after this, and
Me neither.
I know that's a big talking point relating to Ripley, but we'll get there when we get there. So then Kane ends up tripping in the room, lands next to the eggs, and then thinks, you know what? I'm gonna touch it because there's organic life, and I'm like, in every sci-fi, as soon as you touch something, everything goes wrong. Let's see. Oh, and then note I wrote for myself is that Mother is kind of universally accepted as like the end-all be-all on the ship at this point in the universe, versus Covenant, where it felt like they could coax Mother into doing things and to be more like an advice giver. But here, everyone's like, what did Mother say? It's like, oh, what Mother says, Mother knows. You don't go against Mother.
Yeah, what Google says, Google knows.
So then I wrote the next point of the plot is Ripley being right. So naturally, because Kane interacted with the egg, he gets face-huggered. It cuts through his helmet, and everyone's freaking out. They rush back to the ship, and Dallas is like, get us back on the ship. And Ripley's like, I can't do that. And Ash is like sitting at the door like, I'm gonna press the button. I'm gonna press the button. And Ripley's like
yep.
Ripley's like, we have protocol, we need a quarantine. And Dallas is like, don't you know you're gonna kill this man? She's like, okay, but you're gonna kill all of us. And then Ash is like, boop, let him in. And Ripley's like,
how did that happen?
It's very much like David, where David just like, button?
Yeah.
Button. But David's was like dumb luck. Well, maybe dumb luck. Supposedly, he knew what he was doing.
Well, not on the shit. Like, it felt like, yeah, well, David, was dumb luck of, like, pressing everything and finding everything by not accident. But, like, on the ship, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's very much like...
Ash's willful ignorance.
Well, like, no, Ash, I think he has his mission of getting...
I say willful ignorance in that he acts like he's ignorant to what's going on.
Yes,
but he's purposefully... Because every time Ripley is like, what's wrong? He's like, I just did what I was supposed to. And she's like, you didn't, though? You're lying?
How dare you? But,
yes. So...
Oh, man. Sorry, because of whatever came out of my mouth, now I can't imagine... Now I want a movie where Ash, like, they modded his voice where he sounds like a Dracula, and he's just like, oh, hello there, Xenomorphs. They want to eat you everything.
Yes. Then I have the crew is slowly learning about the facehugger that's attached to Kane and is essentially keeping Kane alive. And Ash is kind of feeding little bits of information. And because Dallas is like, what can we do for him? The rest of the crew is like, let's just freeze it and like have it fall off. And they're like, no, but we want to make sure Kane still lives from it. So Ash is like, don't cut him off. It's giving him oxygen. It'd be bad if you cut him off. And Dallas is like, we're cutting it off. And then it bleeds acid. And everyone's like, well, I guess you can't kill it by normal means, because if you cut a hole in it, it'll burst acid and kill us anyway.
That and it was like, well, that was the quickest break of quarantine protocols. I also wrote where I forget what they did. Oh yeah, they get the they get the facehugger into the thing to scan it, and I think Ash is like, we can take our mask off, it's okay. And I was like, well, someone didn't. Someone didn't remember 2020.
So then Ripley starts to show signs of kind of being onto Ash, because she approaches him. She's like, so why'd you let him on? He's like, because Dallas said so. She's like, okay, but what about protocol? And he's like, what, we were supposed to let Kane die? She's like, that's not very scientist of you to say. And he's like, I'm just doing what's best for everybody. Plus, like, we should find out what this is. And she's like, And yeah, she tries to ask him, what is this? What does he think? And he goes, I don't know. It's like made of like this stuff, maybe. She's like, can I look in this microscope? He's like, no, don't touch. Don't look at it. So it feels very obvious that he's trying to hide information from her. And Ripley's just like, hey, Dallas, who is this guy? And Dallas is like, what, you were going to let Kane just die out there? I just command the ship. He commands the science department. And she's like, okay, but he's like lying about stuff and being weird. And Dallas is like, that's our friend in there. You can't blah, 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 blah. I met Ash 2 days before we even came on this mission. She's like, yes. 2 days before we happened to leave. Okay.
Okay, boy.
And then Dallas is like, well, Mother said we have to follow everything and give it all the permission to science. And Ripley's like, Mother said so. So yes, more Ripley getting gaslit as she's just trying to figure out what is happening with everything.
I also think, is it before or right after this? I think it's right after this, when they go in. This is right before, when they have to go in and realize the facehugger's off, right?
It's right after this.
Okay.
Because a little bit later, I wrote that Ash calls everyone in to say that the creature just so happened to disappear. Maybe it is like right. It's very close.
Yeah, because like I remember I was looking at it, because it had to be after that. I can't remember. Hold on, let me look at my notes real quick. It might have been. It might have. It was probably right before this, because I remember when they all come in, Dallas checks Kane's pulse, and like I have first responder training from like years ago, and I'm like, that's not how you check for pulse.
Did he just do the wrist?
No, wrist is fine, but when you don't put your thumb onto the body because
your own thumb has your own pulse.
Yep. Yes. And so like I heard stories of paramedics that would be like this guy who was like very, very clearly dead. And they're like, this guy still has a pulse, and it's just like, you idiot, your thumb is on the body. And he's like, oh.
My bad.
Yeah, so
yeah, but no, yeah, Ash eventually does call everyone to say that the creature happened to disappear, and then they all start to look for it. Like Ripley, Dallas, and Ash are kind of poking and prodding around trying to find it, and it falls from the overhead and falls onto Ripley, and that's when Ash starts to kind of show more so. He's not acting very scared of it, because Ripley and Dallas are cowering in the corner like, oh god, is it alive? And Ash is just like, poke, 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 poke.
That's why I think this one I wrote. I just assume that all milk bots are part of the David Matrix now.
Yeah, I wrote, you'd think he'd be more scared because it was literally attached to a crewmate's face. He has no fear of it, and he talks about how much he wants to learn about the creature. And Ripley's like, all right, if it's dead, let's throw it into space and get rid of it. And he's like, no, this is important. And Ripley's like, what do you mean? If nothing's worth this.
So something that I thought was also really funny of when they came into the room for the first time, they're like all looking around, and all three of them both are like, oh, and turn around and look up at the top of the door. And
it's something fell, I think. Yeah, it made a loud clunk. Yeah.
But yeah, it was just watching it because it just cracked me up so much how they're all just like, oh, oh, and then they just keep going, and then they all spread around.
There, yeah. I think the actual face hugger that he starts to poke and prod at is made of various crustacean shells put together, and then inside they put actual animal organs in it. I was like, ugh. I mean, yeah, it definitely looks like a bunch of organs in there, but ugh, gross.
Yeah, it's really cool looking, and it's like I think this is something we kept saying last year: practical effects over CGI.
They're watching this again. I was like, wow, these look really good. Yeah. And I don't know if Stars has a updated version to kind of try and make it more HD, but I was like, this looks also squishy.
I think it does, but I think all it really switches out is the xenomorph.
Oh, okay. To make it more high definition.
Yeah. Well, I think I remember reading or hearing somewhere that the xenomorph was originally just a dude in a suit running around. That's why it was so dark. And then I think it was in the early 2000s, they went and remastered it to put in the CGI remake of the Alien. So I can look that up real quick.
Okay. So then so Ash is obsessed about looking into this, and then the group gets called back, and Kane is coughing, and the crew is like, Kane, you're alive, are you okay? He's like, I just have a sore throat, I used a good meal. Everyone's like, okay, let's all hang out and joke around. Kane's feeling fine, let's figure this out. And while they're eating together, Ripley makes the comment again. She's like, we're all gonna have to go into quarantine when we get back. And everyone's like, stop being such a stiff person. We're all alive and happy right now. Did you find the...
I'm looking. But what I wrote, I think they also said, oh man, he's eating so much. And I was like, I just wrote in my notes because he's eating for two.
But they don't know. And he says the first thing he wants to do when he gets back is have a good meal, and everyone's like, I've had worse than this, but this stuff is pretty bad. Are you ready for me to move on?
Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah, I wrote this part of the movie. This part of the plot is called Shit Hits the Fan.
Why?
Why? I wrote, a new member of the crew is born. Oh, the miracle of life.
Yes. What shall we name it? Beautiful.
Ash calls it Kane's son, which is interesting later on. But yes, so We have the very memorable scene that gets like spoofed and stuff like that. Like this is in like Spaceballs and everything, where the actor for Kane starts to act like he's having a seizure, maybe he's having a heart attack, and the crew's just like, all right, lay him down on the table, make sure he doesn't bite his tongue, let's get him to calm down, hopefully whatever he has, it passes. And then you hear a lot of crunching noises, and let's see, before I get in, and then an alien bursts from his chest, and everybody screams. So I wrote down, according to one of the actors, there was a theater owner in Texas that said that the chest bursting scene led to so many patrons vomiting in the theater's washrooms that he cut it out. And then fewer people vomited, but many theater goers were baffled about the resulting lack of continuity in the film. I would hate to be the person that watched that cut of the movie.
Isn't that... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to go on to another fact.
Well, your other fact might be the thing I was about to ask, so go ahead.
Okay. This one is about how they made the mechanical torso and what it was built out of. So if you want to...
Okay. If I'm trying to remember, was there... And we might have said this last year, but was this scene also, like, notorious of only Ash and Kane knew?
So I've read different facts about this. So I think this might get covered. So I have, so the crew made the mechanical torso for it to push out. They laid it on the table, and then the actor who played Kane laid underneath the table with his head, shoulders, and arms through holes in the table, so it seemed like one body, right? Because he's flailing, he's screaming. The mechanical torso was packed with animal guts and a small compressed air cannon. And on activating the cannon, the torso bursts open, the blood and guts spilled everywhere, and they pushed the alien puppet up from underneath the table. There's a myth that this was filmed in one take, but it's not true because the mechanism didn't fire the first time. So technically, they were aware that this scene was happening, but they didn't know what was going to happen. And in order to create the shock and horror he wanted, Ridley Scott purposely left some of the cast in the dark about what was coming. The script said that something would come out of Kane's chest, but other than the actor for him, none of the cast members knew any more than that. I think Ash should have known because he didn't react, but they weren't expecting it to be as graphic as it was. So Lambert's look of horror when she sprayed with blood was the actress's real reaction. And the Sigourney Weaver said she thought the actor for Kane might actually be dying, and she only stayed in character because nobody shouted cut. And the actor who plays Parker said that he went home that night in a state of shock, locked himself in the bathroom, and refused to talk to his wife for 4 hours. I could not be on this movie set.
It's like a real Call of Cthulhu mystery.
And... the other thing I was going to say was that apparently there was a version of this movie that was even more gory than what was the final cut. And the original test audiences said that it would get a rating X due to it, so that Scott had to tone down some of the gore he wanted, which kind of makes sense for Prometheus and Covenant because he really he really went for it.
Yeah, because there's like blood and gore everywhere, viscera.
Really highly detailed too. Yeah. So there's your fun facts.
Yeah. One of the things that I was just thinking of when I was watching this, because I was remembering that fact. I know people come up, say it a bunch, and I'm just like, man, I feel like this is the Viggo Mortensen fact of Lord of the Rings that comes up every time when we see like people get to this part and be like, hey, did you know not everyone knew exactly what was going to happen? Like just how in Lord of the Rings, hey, you know when Viggo Mortensen kicked that helmet, he actually broke his toe.
And kept acting through it. And I know if you watch Django Unchained, I think Leonardo DiCaprio wasn't supposed to break the glass. Yep. But then they kept it in because him staying in character and pulling glass out of his hand, the director was like, keep it in. Keep it in.
Yeah. And like I remember, I never watched Django Unchained, but it's just like I've seen that scene talked about. And so like he goes and like I think he puts his blood on some woman's face and everyone's like, yeah, no, that's real blood. That's not her acting. She's really disgusted about what is happening right now because Mel Brooks' blood is all over. Not Mel Brooks. Leo DiCaprio. Blood is all over.
Okay, and then we have I said the next bit is they begin the hunt for the new little guy. The new little crewmate is scuttering around the ship, and everyone's like, we can't let that keep being a thing.
Mm-hmm.
My fun fact is, in combination, the face hugger and the alien or xenomorph, as it goes through its stages, only appear in the film for a total of 4 minutes to really amp up when it is on screen. I was like, yeah, that checks out. It makes it for a good horror movie because you're like, is it here? Is it there? Where is it?
Mm-hmm. It's it's like, I think I said this last time too, but it's just like, just compared to all the other movies, like, I think in the grouping of movies that we watched, I think probably Prey and P1, Predator 1, does this the closest, where to what we watched so far. It really just takes its time.
Mm-hmm. And the reveals feel like actual reveals versus like, oh yeah, he's around the corner, duh.
Mm-hmm. It's like his I'm like, I don't know, I just think with like some of the stuff that we lose with the high tech like Prometheus and Covenant ships was just like, so much stuff was automated.
And it was very well lit.
Yeah. While in this ship, it was like, not so much like it being dark or anything. It's like, I understand why, but it's just like, just even to go see Mother was just so much of a process.
Yeah, he had to like identify himself. He had to insert the card into the slot.
Well, he had to like hit a button code, open up the thing, get the key card, open up the right like slot to put that in, and then wait, like, because there's like later Rip is like, come on, open, open up. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah, and so, but there's like that later, like the whole like end of the movie, like just that also takes so much time as well. And it's like, I think just having this threat that's on there and realizing like you have to combat it, but like everything that would be a good way to stop it has so much like safe walls or firewalls or just a process that takes so much time to do, which adds to that tension that I think we lose in the other movies. Yeah,
and it makes a lot of sense to really build into the horror, because like I know some of like the slashers use like, oh, the door is locked or the keys are missing or the car doesn't start to do this tension. But being on a ship where it makes sense for you to have a lot of protocols because you don't want people accidentally doing something, it makes a lot of sense and builds into the tension pretty naturally. Let's see. Oh, and then I wrote, while they're looking for the new guy, they have a lot of evidence of it quickly evolving. Brett is in the one bay, and he finds like what looks like shredded up skin, and he's like, oh, Jonesy, what's wrong? And the poor cat is hissing and like freaking out, and Brett doesn't pick up on it right away. And I think I read, in order to get the cat to react like that, they were like, hey cat, look, a giant German shepherd, is this scary? And the cat started hissing at it, and they were like, yes, I got the shot. I was like, oh my god. Then I have yes, and then the crew tries to meet up now that they find that Brett has screamed and they can't find his body anywhere. So then they have the meeting, and in the meeting Ash is like, everyone's like, this thing that's running around, and Ash is like, you mean Kane's son? And everyone's like, anyway.
I missed that line. There was something I did want to mention real quick, where one, the dude calling for Jones is the same way I talk to babies. Just like, hey buddy,
what's going on?
What's going on? Why are you over there? Oh gosh. But more importantly, which will be interesting as we watch the next 3 movies, it's like, I feel like the shedding of skin is something that just is forgotten. And
it's not in the prequels, I don't think.
No, it was never in the prequels. It was just like, well, like in Covenant, they kind of come out in their form, like
they kind of like ooze out.
Yeah, but but then also in Prometheus, like they're really, the chest burster is like a full formed xenomorph.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It
doesn't really have the same stages, it feels like, in the prequels.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, because in Covenant, I'm trying to remember if in Covenant we see, like, yeah, we see the face hugger, but I don't think we actually see the chest burster. But it feels like it's just it's a way faster process.
Yeah, it feels very fast in the prequels, where
Right.
like, I remembered in Alien, they took their time throughout the 3 hours. Like, it does evolve quickly, like it goes through its stages very quickly, but it felt like between birth to final stage, it was at least like 6 or so hours. Whereas in like Covenant and Prometheus,
it's like immediate.
Yeah, because the pacing of the movie is like this. You're like, okay, has it been 1 minute or has it been 1 hour?
Yeah, and it's just like, it's really what it comes down to is the pace of the movie. But it's like, I also have to realize and remember is that up to this point, like, Alien is introducing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Covenant and Prometheus have 4 movies where it's just like everyone knows what a xenomorph is.
Yeah, they're assuming you've watched at least the first Alien, so then they're kind of just jumping into,
or at least AVP.
Sure. The non-canon ones.
Yep.
Because AVP and Prometheus cannot exist in the same universe with the way that the lore goes.
There's a lot of stuff that it can't exist in the same universe.
So anyway. Yes, I wrote, you learn to trust Jones the cat, because Jones knows all. Jones is safe. Jones knows what's going on. And then, which is interesting, because the alien in this one seems more curious about the cat, whereas it felt like, I don't know if it's necessarily the prequels, but it felt, in the prequels, they kind of write off the alien as, if there's an organic life form, it will try and go into it. Because, like, David says that he's like, look at all these different versions through all these different animals that used to be on this planet, and now I have the ultimate form. Whereas this alien's like, what is this? And it keeps like watching the cat versus actually like trying to interact with the cat.
Yeah. Part of me wonders if in Covenant that was just David being David.
It could be, because like he was forcing it into the different animals to get all of his research. It could be possible. But the other interesting note that I wrote is Ash is actually the one that tries to introduces the idea of trying to use fire as the weapon against the creature. So then Dallas tries to be a brave captain and goes into the ductwork to try and encounter the alien himself. But as all things go, when you're brave and you split the party, you don't always make it out. And then he kind of...
I won't share my recent split the party moment in the game. I may have traumatized and might get another character banned from a table.
Beautiful.
Yep. I don't think it's podcast safe. That makes it sound way worse than what it actually is.
Would it be a long story?
Let
me stop you before you...
some of it is spoiler to Icewind Dale.
Okay.
Were you playing a little bit of that?
I'm DMing it.
But
I don't want to spoil it for any listeners.
Yes, I'll tell you after.
Okay.
Well, so
then we have so the interesting fact I have about the ductwork is Ridley Scott instructed the crew, like the crew members for the movie, to slightly push in the walls every day of filming to create a sense of doom for the actors without telling the actors.
That's cool.
It's so mean.
It's mean, but it's so cool.
But it makes sense when you see like Sigourney Weaver running through the tunnel. She's just like, she's heavy breathing. She doesn't know what's going on. She's just rushing.
I would do that. Not run through the tunnels, but slowly squish. I will say that...
go ahead.
All I was gonna say was the scene with Dallas and the things. Even though I knew it was happening, and it's like, yes, it was a jump scare. Man, it got me. Like, it made me jump.
The pacing of the movie is so good that you can't tell
Yeah.
Like a lot of modern horror I've noticed, you're like, oh, something's going to happen right now. But with how much it takes its time and how much the actors are really believable in like, I'm going to do it. It's going to be fine. They're giving me instructions. They're telling me where the ping is. It's going to be all right. And they're like, oh, it's around the corner. And you're like, okay, it's going to, Rip Dallas.
Yeah. So, and it's like, it's just so interesting because up to that point, there's been 2 deaths. The first death, face hugger, like, bada bing, bada boom through the chest. The second one
is Brett.
But, like, that's off camera pretty much.
You just have the mouth interaction, really.
Yeah. And then the final, the one that we have now is Dallas. And, like, that, it's just so fast that it's just like, but we see the alien, and it's just like, what's one of those things where it's like, I feel like if this movie was remade today, they wouldn't show the alien. It would have been like a close-up and like the camera in Dallas's face rather than
scream.
Yeah, rather than us like feeling like we're in that tube and then time for the rainbow connection.
So then we have the remaining crew is trying to figure out what to do, what plan they want to make, and Lambert is trying to exclaim and say, you know what, we should just get on the shuttle. But Parker's like, I want to get revenge. I don't want this thing messing with anybody else. I want to make it home, and to make it home we need to make sure it's dead. So they all start preparing, and Ripley is like, you know what, let's blow up the ship. We're gonna blow up the ship. So they start kind of preparing towards that plan, thinking that if it's unkillable by any other means, because if they were to like try and fight it, it bleeds acid, so then they would hurt themselves and all that. And then in preparing for this, Ripley decides that she wants to, finally go to Mother and figure out what is actually going on. And she goes in, and Mother is even gaslighting her, like, what is it that you need? What protocol are you asking for? Are you sure you want to know this information? And when she reads it, she goes, I hate this. Because she finds out that while they thought they were on a regular mining mission, it was actually a secret mission where they want the alien life form detained. They want it alive. And that all responsibilities are in science. Like, science has the final say, which is Ash. And that all other crew are considered expendable. And then Ash is like, what you reading? Yeah. And Ripley's like, oh my god.
Yeah, because like that door is loud. Like there's like a hiss and like all these things, and she's like, oh my gosh, and just like
panicking about what she's realizing.
Yeah, and then like Ash is just like, hello there.
And she's like, oh. And Ash, of course, being who he is like, she knows too much. She's not allowed to know this much. And time to betray. And she bonks him on the head, and he drips milk. And she's like, why is he dripping milk? I'm bleeding. And
yeah, that was something that was really confusing me. It was like, was there a scene where she got hit or something before they ran? Like,
I can't remember.
Because like her nose is bleeding, and then there's milk coming out of his head, and it's just like, was there?
There could have been a cut scene or something like that.
Yeah, it was just like, I'm like, I remember I was watching. It's like, did something get cut, or I'm like, or did
I look away? Yeah,
like I was really confused at there, because I'm just like, it seems like there was like an altercation between these two, and then I don't know, it was just like, okay.
And then I wrote continue the betrayal, try to murder with a magazine.
That is, I don't understand. Like, this dude's so smart, and like this stupid computer's so smart, and he's like, magazine in mouth. I'm like, why?
Let us shut her up. Shut her up.
I think I watched a video where they're like, it was like there's something where actually doing that, like, it's known to. I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was like, I thought I remember reading something like, not years ago, but it was like within the past couple of years, where they were trying to be like, yeah, why the magazine? And then it's just like, no, that was actually like something, not the way that he was twisting it, but it was like if you twisted it and then like slammed it in the mouth or something, it was a way to actually like kill people.
Oh, would it be more to kind of like break your neck, not necessarily suffocate?
I think so.
Okay, that makes sense. And they were just at bad angles because he couldn't push with the way that she was struggling.
And like for anyone that's like, excuse me, D-Payne, it's like I don't remember like everything about this, but I thought I remember reading something, and I think it was supposed to be coiled more in like a cone.
Oh, so it could stab almost.
Yeah, that way it would go into the mouth. I guess I can't remember because I remember reading something about this a while ago.
Okay.
And like more than a couple of years ago. Like it was a pre-pandemic read, and I don't remember what I was looking and reading.
That's fine. So then we have
but I had one other thing I wanted to say. It was like, I want Alien put in Dead by Daylight. I want to run around as Ripley in like all her different forms. I don't know, throw Shawl.
Lots of skins, yeah.
Yeah, throw Shawl in there as well, and whatever the other one's name was in Covenant. Why not throw them in there? But instead of Xenomorph, I want the milk bots.
You want David and Ash?
Yeah, more David. I want
more David.
I want to be David.
Okay. So let's see. So then Parker and Lambert come and try and rip off Ash from her, and they start hitting him with like a fire hydrant, and it eventually ends up decapitating them, and everyone's freaking out. They're like, "What is this?" And then they go, Ripley's like, "You know what? Let's at least make him powered as a decapitated head, because you know what? Maybe he knows how to kill the alien." And then they wake him up, and he goes, "LOL, you can't kill it. It's a perfect life form." And they're like, "Oh, so like you worship this thing?" And he's like, "It is so pure. It has no thoughts. It only murders." And they're like, "Okay."
Yeah, shades of David.
Yeah, we're not into this. So they continue their escape hatch plan.
That scene reminded me a lot of the end of Reanimator.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it was just like, okay, they just switch out the blood for milk.
Yeah, the end of Reanimator was just fun because they had it kind of like, they put tubes so it looked like it was pulsing the blood and all that. But I think if I read somewhere correctly, when they have all the innards of Ash laid out on the table, that might be like cow intestines and marbles and all this stuff put together. I was like, I would have hated to be on the practical effects crew because it must have smelled so bad. Because apparently this was also filmed in the summer, which attributed to a lot of the heat exhaustion in the suits. So I can't imagine how all of these animal carcasses must have smelled. Then this part is where I stopped taking really good notes. I wrote that they start doing their preparations for the escape. They're like collecting materials. They're getting prepared to do the sequence for the self-destruction. But Ripley mainly goes back for the cat, because as you should. And apparently people were like, Ridley Scott, why did she go back for the cat? And he was like, I'd go back for my dog. Duh. I was like, yeah, I'd go and save the animals. I remember I had
I don't know if I would.
I would. I know I had a gas leak in my house because we accidentally pinched a line in the one of the natural gas lines. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I did was I got all the animals, put them in the carriers, and stood outside. And then I was like, "Hey, emergency line. What do I do now?" And they're like, "Make sure you and your animals are outside of the house." I was like, "Okay, next, next."
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure if I owned a pet, I would. I don't know. I'm dog sitting right now, and so I'm just like, I don't know. I think I was saying on stream yesterday, I was like, I don't know if I actually want a dog after all this, but I'm like, you know what? I think it's different if it was my pet.
Yeah.
So
fair.
I don't know.
So yeah. So then I wrote,
birds are funny.
They just live a long time, so I know you have to like entrust somebody with it in case you don't live to the end of the lifetime for a bird, because a lot of them estimated 80 to 120 years depending on the breed of the bird.
Yeah, like I don't know, there's like a few bird stuff I've seen, but I'm like, man, as much as I like them, their feet freak me out. Like, I don't want to touch their feet.
They're just little dinosaur feet.
Yeah, I don't want big or little dinosaur feet touching me. I've shared one of my irrational fears is birds flying into my car while I'm driving. It's like I'm realizing that I don't know. I might have some rational fears, but a majority of them are very irrational and don't make sense. Like whenever I see geese in the spring just sitting and chewing on grass stuff, I'm just like, they're going to get up and fly right into my window, and then I'm going to flip my car and die. And then the next thing is like, well, how am I going to let everyone know, like all the D&D, the podcast, and all that stuff that, well, your co-host / keeper, GM, whatever, is dead now, so
he's not ignoring you. He's not ghosting you. He just is a ghost.
It shows more my mindset. It's like, oh man, I hope I'm not going to like inconvenience people. It's more like, great, now I got to make sure all these people, content-wise, don't think I just did something that makes them hate. Like that I hate them. I died.
I'm just dead, guys.
I'm died. I can't show up to our scheduled meeting. Which anyone that's worked on something for me, scheduling, me missing a scheduled thing is like, whoa, something must be real wrong.
Let's see. So doing the prep, and then in prepping for trying to escape and trying to blow up the ship, Lambert and Parker are working together and run into the big baddie. And poor Lambert is frozen in fear, which, I mean, fair. The thing is gigantic at this point. Mm-hmm. And Parker is trying to help her and go like, okay, come on. If you move, I can like shoot it with fire. And she's just like, it's so too scary. And I'm like, honestly, I can relate.
Yeah. They're also so loud. Like they're
throwing the big canisters around, clunk, clunk.
Which, like, once again, us in now know, hey, alien attracted to noise. It was like,
it does not have eyes.
Yeah. But it's just like at that point, like there's no like close up studied shot and like really information about this thing.
I think that's why I really hated that they did a visual point of view, and I think it was Covenant. And I was like, they purposely gave it no eyes, but you're giving me a point of view, and a lot of it is like noise based.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And I was going to say, like, I know in the video game they do the noise based stuff is really important to the gameplay, which I think does make it scary.
Yeah, it's well, there's an old game I think from the 90s, literally called Alien versus Predator versus Marines, and like you get to choose: do you want to play as the Predator, an alien, or the Marines? And Predator, like you have all the tools and you can flick through all the different things. I'm trying to remember. I think the alien had like blue echo vision, and it's just like, man, it would have been cool if in that scene, like in Covenant, where it was just like, there's another game, I forget what it is, but like you play, it's a horror game where you play as a blind person, and it's like the way you find out, like it's like, I don't know, a little humorous how they set it up, but it's like echo location pretty much. And
is it the VR game? Because I tested that at a PAX East, I think, where they put me in VR, and you have with a one handle you can tap, and when they tap it does like an outline of shapes for you to try and figure out what everything is.
I don't know if it was VR, and I don't remember the name of the game, but like they have a thing where it's just like different noises will send out, like you can see like, okay, there's walls and all that stuff, but like if you get totally lost, you can take your cane and just slam it against the ground, and it'll send out a shockwave, and it's like, this is where you are, and it's like, oh, okay. But I don't remember what the name of it is. I don't think it was VR though.
Okay. Yeah. So where was I? Oh, and
yeah.
I wrote that at the I said at this rate Ripley has had to fight with her crew, because she kept getting like doubted. Then she had to fight the evil robot because Ash tried to kill her, and now she's been running from an alien, and now she's fighting with Mother over the self-destruct protocols. And I love it because you can tell she's stressed out. She just wants to make sure everything's in order. And Mother is like, T-5 minutes. And she's like, I fixed your stupid cooling things. Can you calm down? And Mother's like, T-4 minutes. She's like, you stupid bitch. I fucking hate you. And starts kicking the ship and is like running and struggling with the cat. And then like running from the alien and has a flamethrower. And Mother's just like, T-. And Ripley's like, I get it. I heard you the first time.
Yeah. I only listened to David. What?
Who's David? But yeah, and then the movie culminates into Ripley starts to settle in, thinks that she's safe on the escape pod, and she goes.
Before we do this escape pod, there was one thing I wanted to say is I normally don't feel bad for movie animals, but man, the way Ripley's she's just whipping that case around, I'm like, is that cat still alive?
Yeah, at one point she like tosses it and it goes thunk, and I'm like, okay, the cat was probably just unnerved, and then she flips it, and I was like, wait, that cat's like sideways, and then she flips it again. I was like, it's upside down.
Yeah, it's like, dude, she's like drop kicking this thing through the ship, and it's just like, get in there. The
cat ends up being fine.
Yeah,
she does put it in the sleeping. In the beginning, I was curious if they had a cat-shaped sleeping pod, but I guess it's just at their feet because she puts it into the sleeping pod like at her feet. But yeah, so then Ripley. In all of it, she tries to get changed. I'm sure she's sweaty or whatever. And of course, they have her in an outfit that's like just enough to cover her. And you sent me the fact that Sigourney Weaver refused to like be fully shaven down and waxed and etc. So they spent a good amount of budget, supposedly, to get rid of all of her stray hairs that Ridley Scott didn't want to be seen in that scene.
Yeah, and Sigourney was like, heck with you. This is what you get for putting me in the shrinking tunnels.
But yes, so then Ripley, she undresses and then starts to hear noises and realizes the xenomorph is sleeping on the escape pod. So she tries her best to kind of sneak around and not alert its presence before she puts on a whole spacesuit to open up a vent. And then it opens up the vent, and then you have what's now kind of comical looking scene of the alien just falling slowly in space. Everything falling in space is very comedic to me, even in modern movies. I'm just like, it's so like fast, and then suddenly it's just like, and I'm like, it's kind of funny. It's not supposed to be funny, but it's kind of funny.
It's not a laser, so.
And then the movie ends with Ripley getting into the sleeping pod with Jones. Supposedly there's an Easter egg in the credits scene where you can hear an alien pod opening, like the egg opening again. I tried to listen to it. I couldn't hear it when I was watching on my tablet.
Where would the other egg be?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I mean. Like, I don't know.
You know what?
But that's supposedly an Easter egg.
Yeah. It's thinking of, like, the very little that I know about the second movie, it's like, I don't know why I'm so concerned on where these like how they get everywhere, because it's just like the second one like takes place in a completely different area, and apparently, if I remember correctly from what I heard, is that it's already overrun. So
yeah. Let's see. So
did I write anything down?
I have more fun facts, but I'll just say this. This movie's still 10 out of 10 for me.
Same here. Oh, the last thing I wrote was this movie should have been called Alien Nostromo.
So, apparently, the movie had different working titles from what I was reading. I forget what the first one was, but one of them was like Star Beast. And then there was another name, and then they settled on Alien. But yeah, it had like 2 or 3 other names entertained by the original script writers. But I would not have enjoyed a movie called Star Beast. I feel like it's I would think it's like a budget movie.
Star Beast does sound like, it sounds like a D&D campaign.
Yeah, and apparently the only reason that Fox was willing to pick up the Alien script at all is because of the success of Star Wars in '77. So Fox was like, oh, sci-fi? We'll pay for it. And then they tried to get Harrison Ford to play Dallas, and Harrison Ford was like, I can't do 2 sci-fi movies back to back. I'm not going to get like forced into this.
Yeah, it would have been fun, but still.
It is nice. I do think they picked very good actors in the end.
Yeah.
I do really like all of them.
I don't know why. Now I just want to watch The Thing.
It would be a good follow-up to this. So let's see. I am getting a phone call, so I'll have to deal with that soon. But let me look through the rest of my little fun facts. Supposedly, Metroid was heavily inspired by Alien and the Aliens. And thinking on it, I'm like,
that tracks.
Makes sense.
Trying to think there's anything else.
Oh, Ash was apparently not part of the original script. Producers added him in later.
And look what they started.
And they started a whole universe. Let's see. The alien itself The puppet for the alien head was made of over 900 working parts, so that they can move the lips, the mouth, and everything in all the inner mouth, and all of that.
So many things.
The inside of the alien mouth, when like the tendons, when its mouth opens and it looks like it's ripping, is made of shredded condoms, and the drippiness on it is made out of KY jelly lubricant. Okay. I love special effects. It's very fun. Let's see. Oh, and there's a cutout scenes from the movie, because some people pointed out that they were curious what happened to Brett and Dallas, because on their deaths they kind of disappear, whereas Parker and Lambert, you see Parker is like hunched over and bleeding, and Lambert is like pinned to the wall. Apparently there was a cutout scene where Brett and Dallas were cocooned and Ripley happens upon them, and it says Dallas is being morphed into an egg, and he begs Ripley to kill him with her flamethrower. So I can see why that would have been involved in making the movie rated X.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Next time.
Yeah, it says the innards of the facehugger egg were procured from a nearby slaughterhouse and include cow hearts and stomachs, while the facehugger's insemination tube is made using sheep intestines. And my little less gross fun fact is apparently there was a New Jersey high school that did a stage production of Alien that went viral, and it drew praise from Sigourney Weaver, James Cameron, and Ridley Scott, who offered to pay for an encore production. It is very cute.
Nice.
And Alien, I believe... That's a good question. And I believe Alien has actually been put into, I forget what museum it was, but as a culturally significant film, and is preserved. Go movie.
Yeah.
Go movie.
Yeah, I think Hop and I knew going into this, Alien was always going to get another 10 out of 10. Seeing how it's what inspired this. It's just like, what's going to fill in underneath? And it's like, I don't know. Right now, like, I know Prey is is going to be high up on the list. And then Predator might be somewhere in the middle, depending on how these next three go.
Yeah, I mean, like, at first, I was like, I do really like Prometheus and Covenant. They're not bad movies, right? Like, they did their jobs, and they were sufficiently, like, scary, sufficiently, like, action-y, and you were at the edge of your seat. If you ignore all the lore changes that kind of remove from the original Alien. But then watching Alien, I was like, wow, the pacing of this is like perfect. Like, it's even on rewatch, even though you kind of know like when things are going to happen in the order, just sitting as an observer, it's still very nice. And I remember someone messaged me, they're like, wow, the beginning of Alien is so slow. And I'm like, yes, but it's important that it's that slow.
It's from a time 79. That's when it came out.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So movies in the 70s were known to take their time. Just like I think it's Escape from New York.
I think New York is the first one, and then I think LA is the second one.
Yeah. Whatever one in that series, it's like I think it's New York is the first one. It's on my list to watch eventually, but like there's scenes of just long landscape and like just scenes that are just like, why is this in here? And it's just, it takes its time.
Yeah. Could you hear that? That sounded very close to my house.
I heard
like fire trucks.
Okay. Yeah. Normally that's what it sounds like outside my apartment, because I live right across the street from a firehouse, fire station. But yeah. I don't have anything else to add. I also think I was thinking this. I'll make sure that in the description below that the link to our deep dive into this movie, that podcast is on there. Because this one was just a fun like walk through,
enjoying the movie.
Yes. But like I think there's some stuff where we like really kind of deep dive. If there's stuff that's in there that you want to see. We don't have a YouTube video of it, unfortunately. That was before we did video, but we'll make sure that the audio is linked in that
if you're
podcast.
Watching, and if you're if you're curious about the video format, if you're listening on an audio format, we do have video available on Spotify and YouTube. I can't think of anything else to add other than I'm hungry, I need to use the bathroom, and I got a couple texts from people. I'm usually not this eager to leave a podcast because these are very fun and I enjoy them. But
she had enough of me.
If you made it this far, we appreciate you. Double appreciate you if you leave any ratings or reviews. If you do, we'll be sure to shout you out if it's not anonymous or not hidden. If you feel like we missed yours, please message us on twitter.com/pointlessdisco, where that's a good place to interact with us. And we'd also really appreciate it if you shared us with other people, or even people you like, people you don't like, people you're like, maybe.
Yep.
Either way. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yep. Bye-bye.